All right, let's dive into one of the biggest questions of our time. How do we build AI that's not just smart, but, wise? We're going to tackle this by looking at a blueprint for AI ethics that doesn't start with code, but with something as simple as a sip of water. To really get where we're going with this, we've got to understand where the idea even comes from. And it's all rooted in this incredibly powerful quote from Alex Kim. It was born from a childhood in 1980 South Korea, and believe it or not, it might just be the key to unlocking a more human way of thinking about AI. So let's start right there with that sip of clean water and the massive question it inspired. Okay, so picture this. Alex Kim is growing up in a world where poverty didn't really feel like poverty. It just felt normal. I mean, sharing one bathroom with dozens of other people, that was just life. It wasn't until much later, when he saw kids in places like Iraq and Mexico drinking literal muddy water, that something just clicked. And the lesson was profound. You can't miss what you've never seen. It's a perfect modern-day version of Plato's allegory of the cave, right? Once you've been shown the light, once you've tasted clean water, you just can't go back to accepting the shadows on the wall or the muddy water as your only reality. So that realization as a kid, it led to another major insight years later during his military service. And it's about a problem that has, well, found its way into all of our pockets. See, in the military, the whole idea of informed consent had a bit of a catch. Sure, you got briefings, you signed papers, but with the entire chain of command behind an order, did you really have a choice? It felt a lot more like informed required consent. You basically had no option but to trust the system. And if that dynamic sounds familiar, well, it should, because that military experience maps almost perfectly onto our digital lives. The system of authority on the left is basically the terms of service on the right. We get these disclosures that are longer than a novel, we scroll right to the bottom, and we click agree without even thinking. It's the exact same thing. It's the civilian version of required consent. And this brings us to a huge question for today. When AI starts making these life-altering decisions about us, about our loans, our jobs, our health, all based on data we supposedly consented to share, can we really honestly say that our consent was truly informed? The stakes are just getting higher and higher, and the whole process is getting murkier. So, okay, if that's the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, it's not some brand new super complex algorithm. The answer, as Kim discovered at UC Berkeley, is actually a framework that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. The foundation for a real solution is right here, the Belmont Report from all the way back in 1979. And this wasn't some abstract academic exercise. It was created in response to horrific ethical abuses, like the Tuskegee study, specifically to protect real people. It gives us what Kim calls a tonal center for ethics. And that tonal center, it's built on three beautifully simple, yet incredibly powerful principles. First, respect for persons. Basically, people have the right to make their own truly informed choices. Second, beneficence, which just means do no harm, and wherever you can, try to do good. And third, justice. The burdens and the benefits of any new technology have to be distributed fairly. That's it. Simple, right? Okay, principles are great, but how do we actually put them into practice? Well, the next step is a really practical model for oversight, and it's inspired by the way our own brains work. This is all based on the amazing work of Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman. He said we basically have two ways of thinking. There's system one, which is fast, it's intuitive, it's your gut reaction. Think of it like a smoke detector. Then there's system two. It's the total opposite. It's slow, it's analytical, it's deliberate. It's the grown-up in the room that actually weighs all the evidence. To build ethical AI, we're gonna need both. And here's what that actually looks like in the real world. Kim built these System 1 prototypes, literally AI smoke detectors. For the principle of justice, there's a model that scans mortgage data for unfair lending patterns. For respect, there's a tool that sifts through customer complaints to spot emerging harms. And for beneficence, an anomaly detector that flags system failures before they can spiral out of control. Each one is a fast-acting alarm. But, and this is absolutely key, these alarms are just the beginning. Their job is to get our attention. They feed into a System 2 process, that slow-thinking grown-up, that then asks the really critical questions. Is this alarm for real? Does this actually matter? And if so, why is it happening? Okay, this all brings us to the final section, where we scale this whole idea up from individual prototypes into a really comprehensive vision for the future of the entire AI industry. So, how would an AI ethics officer actually work? Well, it's a four-step loop. First, you define what normal ethical behavior looks like, using those Belmont principles as your guide. Second, you are constantly collecting live data on how the AI is actually behaving out in the wild. Third, you use statistical tools to see when the AI's behavior drifts away from that ethical baseline. And finally, when a drift is detected, you escalate it to human experts who can investigate and, fix the problem. And this quote just ties it all together so perfectly. It's like good music, right? You can have improvisation and complexity, but it always returns to its tonal center. For AI, that anchor, that tonal center, has to be those three principles: respect, beneficence, and justice. So what does this mean for regulation? It's not about creating more red tape. It's not a hybrid model where the industry actually takes the lead. Companies use these internal ethics officers to find, report, and fix their own problems. And the regulators, their job shifts from punishing bad actors after the fact to simply making sure these internal systems are actually working. It creates a feedback loop that's built on trust and responsibility, not bureaucracy. So to be perfectly clear, this isn't about slowing down innovation. Not at all. It's about making sure the future we're all racing towards is a future we'd actually want to live in. It's about making sure what we build is worth building in the first place, and more importantly, that it's safe enough to pass on to our kids. Which brings us right back to where we started. It's a simple philosophy for a really complex time, a blueprint for building a better future, one line of code at a time. Start small, think big, and above all else, stay human.